A long time ago, in a small rural town, there lived a young man named Samuel. By trade, Samuel was a farmer and tended his fields for a living. He lived with only his wife, Mary. Both his parents had passed away. One day, Samuel had to travel to another town on urgent business. He thought about leaving. Mary alone at home, but couldn't bear the idea there were no relatives nearby and he could not leave his wife unprotected. So he gathered what supplies he would need, put all the money he had into a sack, and set out on foot toward the other town with Mary by his side. They walked for many days. When they reached the border of a different county, bandits attacked them on the road. The thieves eyed Samuel and Mary greedily and ordered, "Hand everything over quietly, or there will be trouble." Samuel did not resist. To protect his wife and himself, he handed over all the money and supplies. The bandits fled with everything, leaving Samuel and Mary empty-handed. In the unfamiliar town, their situation quickly became desperate. Out there, money was everything. Samuel worried. He had no acquaintances in this place and no support. As they trudged on, he spotted a small cabin in the distance. He made his way there with Mary, hoping for help. At the cabin lived an old white-bearded hermit named Elijah, who spent his days in quiet contemplation and prayer. Samuel approached respectfully, greeted him, and told him the whole story, how bandits had stolen their money, how he'd borrowed some of what he had, and how now he couldn't return home until he had enough to settle the debts. If he didn't, people at home would make life unbearable for them. He begged Elijah for help. Elijah listened with compassion. "Trust in God," the hermit said gently. "He finds a way through hardship." Then he told Samuel about a wealthy man in a nearby village named Alexander, who often helped the poor. "Go to Alexander," Elijah advised. "Tell him your story. He is generous and may assist you. But remember, never leave your wife alone on long, dangerous journeys. A person's honor is more valuable than anything." Samuel thanked Elijah and walked toward Alexander's house, thinking as he went, "If I only ask Alexander for a little help, perhaps he will give enough for food and for travel." Yet the thought of leaving Mary behind terrified him. He wanted her safe more than anything. When Samuel reached Alexander's large home, he pleaded his case humbly. "Sir, I ask for a loan," he said. "With this money, I will start a business trading grain. I'll pay back everyone I owe. Until then, my wife will serve in your house as a helper." Alexander's wife had died some years ago, and he had young children. When he looked at Mary, she was a beautiful, modest woman. Alexander felt his heart stir with an improper desire. He concealed his thoughts, listened solemnly, and agreed to the loan. He gave Samuel the money and took Mary into his household as a maid. Samuel used the loan to buy grain cheaply from nearby farmers. Loading the sacks onto camels, he hired and selling the grain in the city for a good profit. By God's blessing, his business flourished. In a short time, Samuel earned enough money to pay back Alexander and the villagers and to continue his trade as a legitimate merchant. He missed Mary terribly. 8 months later, he returned to the town where he had left her to settle his debts and bring her home. When Samuel arrived at Alexander's, he asked the man to count the accounts and return his wife. But Alexander's face turned grave. "I'm afraid," Alexander said. 3 months ago, your wife became ill and passed away. I tried to treat her, but I could not save her." The news struck Samuel like lightning. He was crushed. He accepted it with forced patience and said he still wanted to repay the loan to clear his conscience. Alexander refused to accept money for what had happened. Samuel insisted, but Alexander would not take it. Broken-hearted, Samuel made his way back to Elijah's cabin. Elijah saw his sorrow and asked what had happened. When Samuel told the story, Elijah's face reddened with anger. "Foolish man," the hermit scolded gently but sharply. "How could you leave your wife alone in the house of another man? I warned you. I feared Alexander was not to be trusted." Then Elijah's thoughtful eyes narrowed. He said, "Alexander has deceived you. Your wife is alive, either hidden away or sold. Go to the judge in this town and ask him to force Alexander to return her to you. The judge is wise and just. He will help." Samuel obeyed and presented his plea to the town judge. The judge summoned Alexander and asked him to explain. Alexander solemnly repeated the story that Mary had fallen ill and died 3 months ago, and claimed he had witnesses. A local doctor who had treated her and 4 men who had carried a body and buried it. The judge listened and, believing the evidence plausible, sent Samuel away disappointed. Samuel returned again to Elijah and related what had happened. The hermit said, "Listen to me. Bring me to the court and ask the judge to grant me his authority for 3 hours. Let me sit in his place. Trust me, I will reveal the truth." Though hesitant, the judge agreed. If the hermit could produce proof of truth, he could use the judge's seat for 3 hours. Elijah took the place of the judge and called Alexander's witnesses forward. First he questioned the doctor. "Did you treat Samuel's wife in Alexander's house or at your own clinic?" The doctor stammered that Alexander had come to him for medicine, but he could not confirm for whom the medicine was intended. Elijah pressed further, and under the hermit's stern questioning, the doctor crumbled. He admitted he had lied for money. He had not treated Mary at all. Soldiers in the court seized the doctor on Elijah's order, and the judge's men began to punish him for perjury. Seeing the doctor break down, the 4 men who claimed to have buried the woman also faltered. Under Elijah's firm words, they confessed they had never seen the body. They had pretended to help. Alexander buried a woman at his direction. Faced with the risk of a much harsher punishment, their courage failed. With the witnesses' lies exposed, Elijah turned to Alexander and said, "Your falsehood is uncovered. Bring Samuel's wife to court now." Terrified, Alexander sent his servants to fetch Mary and presented her in court. Elijah returned Mary to Samuel, and Alexander was punished for his crimes. He received prison time for deceit and for attempting to keep another man's wife by fraud. His false witnesses were also punished. The town judge thanked Elijah for teaching him how to find the truth. Samuel wept and thanked the hermit. Before they parted, Elijah gave one final lesson to the judge and to Samuel. A society without justice cannot prosper, and ignorance destroys a community. Then to Samuel he said, "Remember 3 things always. First, never leave your wife alone when she is ill. Marriage means you promise to care for her in sickness as she cares for you. Second, stand by your wife if someone wrongly accuses her. She left her family to trust you, so protect her honor. Third, never leave your wife alone in the company of strange men you cannot fully trust. You cannot risk her safety. Honor and protection come before convenience." Samuel returned home with Mary, wiser and grateful. The town learned a lesson about justice and the importance of wise counsel. And from that day forward, Samuel carried Elijah's 3 rules in his heart.